Welcome to yet another episode of Unyielding Voices, building power, resisting oppression. Today we have a guest who deserves no mention because I know as soon as you see him, you know who he is. But I'll let him introduce himself anyway. But before that, I am Godwin Toko and my co-host is Merab. Merab, how are you today?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. Since the last episode, it's been a while.
And it's been a couple of interesting weeks, very intense weeks.
Yeah, and I hope the viewers out there and the listeners enjoy these episodes.
Yes.
And if there are any changes they would like us to make or people they want us to host, they can always do that by leaving a comment to us and
Yes,
we'll
please.
definitely respond. Yes, so today we have a gentleman who is a lawyer, a climate change activist, a political activist, human rights activist, and above all, I think that the final one, if you want to know who he is, he was Kakwenza's lawyer. So we have Eron Kiiza with us in the studio today. Mr. Kiiza, we are glad to have you. Good morning.
Good morning. He's saying I was, but I still am Kakwenza's lawyer because until he fires me, I'm still doing work for him in the legal capacity. But rightly, as you put it, I'm also a poet, an environmentalist, and I'm a father of children, all of them Ugandan children, and I think I wear many hats, and that's what we are supposed to be. God wants us to be many things different, not just one box thing. We have imbibed this be expert, be specialist, really colonial culture, which was meant to box us into given shelves, out of which we are never supposed to jump, so that we are submissive to their frames.
Yeah.
But God created us as a free people.
To do as many things as possible.
Yeah,
As many good things as possible. I get you. So when we talk about Eron, I mean there are many lawyers in Kampala. You're definitely one top lawyer. But even perhaps more than being a lawyer, you're known for the activism that you imbibe all the time, whether it's in the law, whether it's in climate activism. So I just want to first go back, reset the clock and go back to the time when you were like a student. Let's pick a time, like at the university. So you're at the Uganda Christian University Law School. I know UCU is, unlike Makerere, more anti-protest, so we don't hear a lot of protests there, a lot of strikes. How was it? Did you feel suppressed being in that environment, or did you still engage in such activism while you're a student?
No, UCU is not conducive for student activism.
Okay.
They are conservative, religious conservatism, and closed, and they want to nurture this relationship with the first family. During our time, the vice chancellor was bedfellows with the first lady, and he was very openly boastful of it. So the Ugandan church, it's a church founded school, university, and the Ugandan Church of Uganda, for most of the time, Church of Uganda has been plainly under the wrap of President Museveni, with some of the top leaders clearly under his grip, under his bribery, and under his silencing.
I don't know if you saw that tweet where someone said that Kazimba Mugalu, who is the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, is Museveni's RDC to Church of Uganda.
It's on them. It's on the church to prove us who think so wrong, because the church is a leader, and we say this to hold it to account. The church is a leader for its congregation, but also of the wider community. It's a leader. It's like an alternative government, if you may like. It is supported by the public. It has the public attending. They have the spiritual followers. They back the church financially. They have to explain to the public their relationship with the president. And it's not that it shouldn't be there, but it should be professional, or it should be non-discriminatory. They should show the same attitude towards opposition figures, because the people of God are not only NRM. The people of God, some of them are no PFF, some of them just even hate the other ones. You have to shepherd all people in their diversity. diverse political thoughts and other shades of opinion. So it behoves the Church of Uganda to show that, and UCU is within that context of Church of Uganda, not behaving differently. So to be sure, there were some political activities. Yes. I was more politically active at university than now, because the law profession is selfish and stole me away from many other things I was doing. But also I think my other exposure to politics at university sort of dissuaded me, or something about politics I didn't like, and I was sure that I didn't really want to engage. That's why I'm not excited even when people are saying this constituency, they do this. I'm very sorry, because I felt maybe my calling is elsewhere. Let me go to the courtroom, and I was very clear where I was going. I thought about the army, and I felt my character wouldn't fit the army. You may be surprised. I thought about police, and I still felt. I even thought about government lawyering, and I still felt I didn't. So I asked myself, which kind of lawyering can maintain my freedom? Can I do, and I don't have to really be a tongue licker? And yeah, because in the army I would have been, either me or the army, one would have been a problem for the other, with the obvious consequence that I would be hunted down much faster. It's not that I'm not being hunted now, but I think it would have been worse. And the rigor room is much narrower in the army. Getting out is gambling, especially the previous. Even now, you can't just get out. Either you must be broken or thoroughly compromised, or they just don't release you when you're whole. They want first to really milk you or wrench you.
From you leave you depleted.
Depleted. Then they will just send you away. And yeah, so those are. But so you see, there was some activism, there was some politics, but it was highly monitored. You could even think it was secondary school type of monitoring. For you see, for some of us who were more, who are like awake politically, we were admiring the public universities. This is not the public university.
Speaking of the public universities, now that we see Makerere, Chambogo, recently we've seen how they are curtailing,
Now, public universities have also, there is little difference between them and private universities in terms of their suffocation of civil liberties. The Makerere of today is not the Makerere when, rest in peace, Ngugi wa Thiong'o was a student.
Even 10 years ago.
Yeah, or even like the early years of NRM when the late Nobo Mayombo,
Norbert
Mao would debate the Kahindo Tafires, even the University of Urukwago and Andrew Mwenda. It's a far cry. You just read about it and then you see the university now.
And you see that for me takes me back to what you said earlier, that we're created to be free people who do a lot of stuff. I feel like there's a big missed opportunity each time education is viewed as a transcript. You have a transcript, have you passed, and all that. Because I feel like my own feeling is that the world generally has, can I say, template that it wants every human being to live by. But in every society, you have people who are different from that template. Some of the best presidents around the world were never the best students in class. Some of the best people who, maybe liberation fighters and all that, they were never the best people in class. So I feel like a university must, as much as possible, allow people to learn even outside the academic setting. So for me, for instance, when I was at Makerere, a lot of the learning I had from the university was never in the class. It was in the debates in the main hall and all that. There was a time I got a retake because I entered late into an exam. There was a debate in the main hall that I didn't want to miss. So I was there for long, and by the time I got to the exam, there was nothing to salvage. Yes, but for me personally, I feel like that is really true, that maybe Ugandan universities now need to get to a point where they begin thinking. People learn from debating. Students learn by debating with each other. Students learn by solving conflicts within themselves. They learn by expressing themselves. Yeah, so it's a dangerous place we're in now, I feel.
Yeah, I don't think they don't know that. I think it is deliberate, really, to
suppress.
Yes, suppress the voices of the students. It's
In
really
that context, actually, the current state is not different from the colonial state. If you read, was it a letter by Abu Mayanja, the complaints that he was raising against the colonial state are the same or even worse complaints that a current student at a public university would raise. Because whether it's Makerere, Chambogo, and these are the leading public universities, the only ones where there were some civil liberties being exercised, it's not there now. The vice chancellors are acting like head prefects on behalf of the head teacher being Museveni.
Yes, yeah.
You know, when you go back to the colonial times, there's a book I read, Uganda's President, an illustrated biography. I think it's a 2012 book. One of the most interesting people I got to learn about in that book was President Kiiza. Kiiza was at the university around the same time Odinga was there, the father of Raila Odinga. And those two were the polar opposites. One was a scientist, one was into the arts. So Odinga was into the arts, Kiiza was into the sciences. So, of course, Kiiza later becomes a lawyer, Queen's Counsel and all, but he had gone to Makerere to study sciences. I think mineral science, something like that, or insects, one of those two. But you know, one of the funny things I read is that during World War II, in the 1940s, when they were there, the British government made it a policy at the university that they could only listen to certain radios, including BBC, to get the British propaganda. Now, what the Kiizas did is that they tempered, I don't know how, and this is 1940s Uganda, they tempered with a signal that got the radios to the students. And they could listen to the German propaganda broadcast in English. So that when the colonial administration would go to Makerere, like to brief on how the war is going, briefing lecturers, a student would stand up and say, no, you're lying about that, and give them the right facts. And these guys were surprised. So when they eventually discovered it was Kiiza and this group were tempered with the signals, they were expelled from the, not only expelled, it was what was it? What is the term they used? It was deported actually to Mbarara. They left him somewhere in Mbarara. But Kiiza being Kiiza, the book continues that. And then said he had found a mineral deposit. And they allowed him to get a loan. He became the first Ugandan to get such a huge loan. But yeah, I feel like the activism of students, it looks like madness, but there are really methods to it at the end of the day. Not just for the students themselves, but for the country as a whole. Yeah? Yeah, so now moving from that, Eron, if I could bring you a bit closer. After the university, I guess you feel like a bird out of the cage, liberated. That you can do your activism out here first. So then you become many things still into environment and a lawyer activist, representing people, pro bono, and all these other services. So first, let's start with the climate change bit of it, the environmental activism. What really drives you into that field? What do the rest of us not see that for you see and say, there's something not being done and there's much more that we need to do?
I think I was born an environmentalist. I love nature. I even love flowers. I love trees. I remember
Hope your wife gives you enough flowers.
As a young man, I would go in just like a tree shamba, sit there in stones. My grandfather, I didn't see him, but my grandmother, they had the shamba for trees and so on. So you would sit and just immerse, take in the air. The air around the tree is very different. Then the leaves, if it is eucalyptus, you know that's eucalyptus saint. So taking it in is probably therapeutic. Yeah, there is something called forest bathing. It's common. It's actually prescribed in Japan and South Korea.
What does that entail? You go to the forest?
Forest bathing is just going into a forest and sleeping, walking, and the whole environment will heal you of some stress. Yeah, it is very therapeutic to spend time in nature.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know people do it in Uganda? I would want to try that out.
I know someone who is so...
They organize it?
No, not organizing it. Recently, I was at a retreat, and one of the things that they were encouraging us is to,
take nature walk.
Remove your shoes. Can you just do some earthing and walk and go to the forest and, breathe that air, disconnect from everything. And we were in a space which had a lot of trees. And let me tell you, I left that place feeling a little lighter than I went in. I was feeling burnt out. But I think there is magic in nature that we take we don't even know exists maybe in there. So
Yeah,
I agree with you that
nature is magical and it is healing. There is a time I was in Arusha MSTCDC, you know that place. So they put me in a room which was right next to a river. There is a river, but down there. That was my favorite.
Also healing.
I've been there.
the sound of
So
the
at
water.
night, I just wake up and listen to the beautiful sound of music. Even when I go out, I prefer the noise of nature. If there is a fountain, trees, to the music that people are trying
piano.
to too much noise. The chaos of nature is music, while the chaos of humans is not exactly music, or doesn't appeal to me. Yeah, I mean, noise is noise, it's not music. So I'm into music rather than noise. But what drives me, like all this beauty, all this medicine, all this food that nature is being degraded at the altar of short-term gains of corrupt, selfish politicians and business people, both internationally and locally, using the gun. Yeah, because all major deforestation in Uganda is protected by the military.
Wow.
All major deforestation, lumbering large scale, all wetland degradation is government sanctioned. Like the major one, forget about a poor person trying to get where to live, but if it is rice grown, if it is Mandela powering soil at Busega, if it is Sudio being invaded by the lake, if it is Hoima Sugar Limited destroying an acre of a forest, of Goma forest every day, that is government sanctioned.
Yeah, true.
Without government, and Museveni's government, to be very clear. Yes.
So, you've been in this space for a bit, the climate activism.
Yeah, so for me, who knows the beauty of nature and seeing it breeding, and nature has no gun. It
can't fight
physically fight back.
Yeah.
It eventually does in the long term.
It fights back more roughly in the end. That's why you see the climate crisis and so on and so forth. And when it fights, it doesn't fight immediately. So you cut a tree, you burn it, and you think you have won. You are the fool.
In the long run, it shows you
the flood will show you that you are the fool.
the heat,
the drought will show the starvation will show you, the earthquake will show you, because some of these disasters cannot be as intense if we have nature. If we just have trees with roots holding the side of the mountain, the borders will not come down to destroy the house. Even that landslide is likely not to get done. Or if it comes, it will be less problematic. So nature is our defense. So if we are destroying it, we are destroying ourselves. We are destroying our allies. And when the tears come in terms of floods and what, then we are exposed. We are exposed. Defenseless. We are defenseless. These floods you see, some of them are tracing their original roots. You have powered soil. The lake has been pushed aside. But then when it raises, it has to come back. It comes and it starts with where it's from. It knows where their exes are. It will go and try to and reclaim them.
So,
yes, madam. I remember when you speak about the army, the government being ready at the center of the degradation. I have a few examples of some communities that we work with across the country. There is a forest in West Nile, Logiri, I think, and what the government is doing, and through the NFA, is they claim these are game reserves. Yeah, and so they push away these communities, which have been here in these areas protecting these forests. They do not destroy the forests, the communities. They protect them.
Actually, land to live
because
forest communities are dependent on the forests, so they cannot destroy them.
Yes. Exactly. And a few years ago, there is a particular community that was pushed off their ancestral land because they claimed it was a forest reserve. And a couple of months down the road, some activists and community organizers went back. They were pushing back, organizing actions around this area. And what they found was shocking. There was a garden, a very huge, not a garden, acres of opium.
In the forest?
In the forest.
In West Nile?
In West Nile.
Quite shocking.
Yes.
Not
and
shocked
I think
for me. That's
it's not
shocking.
Yeah.
that happens.
I thought all they do is come and cut down the tree, do some lumbering here and there, but
They do that as well.
planting opium.
Opium. Actually, I think I do have a small clip, a video of this happening in West Nile. So they will push communities off for their selfish, illegal businesses even. So it's happening across the country, and I don't think it's getting as much.
Correct, that's what I was telling you. So an ordinary person can't pull off that move.
No, you
they
can't
can't.
grow opium at that large scale. Yeah, so
But Eron, so for me,
And ordinary law enforcement can't solve that problem.
yeah.
So if you go to police, you'll be even likely to get a reference, and you're ordinary person for that kind of thing.
arrested.
Yeah, they will
But the
either
police
push
are
you
there.
away or they will arrest you.
are protecting the
Yes,
place.
yes.
When you step foot in that
Your
plantation,
chest, yeah.
you are chased if you're lucky and you're not beaten and even put in, thrown in jail.
So the question I have for you now is, how many years has it been for you in the activism, climate activism, more actively? Can I say about 5, 7?
Yeah.
About that, so 5, 7 years. So do you see any progress? When you look back and say, we've done this, do you have, okay, yeah, because many times I say that I achieve even if nothing is done. As long
The
as
resistance
yes.
is increasing, the awareness is increasing, but so is the damage, unfortunately.
The other side is getting more vicious as well.
Yes, it is more vicious, but history will record them. Sometimes we like to say that it's being documented, it's being seen, it's being resisted. You see people, young people on the streets resisting, you see people in communities meeting, and so the awareness is increasing. Yeah. So, for example, I don't know whether they succeeded. They were supposed to put off a strike on 27th against the Ruera.
The wetland.
They have been conducting online.
Is that the place that floods every Christmas season? the one for Western Uganda, right? That's where that's from.
Yes.
Some
So
rice
they have
as well.
rice growers.
Yes.
A large scale, and I think it's Chinese investors. Yeah, so
Crazy. And it's everywhere. But now, let me shift to the political side of your activism, which I think is what you're known more for. Not many people know that you're the ED of Environment Shield, which is a human rights dedicated organization, but for environment. If we move now to the political side of activism, how's that? How did you get to it? What have been some of your highs and lows in that?
if there is one area you would want to avoid, or I would want to avoid, it is that what you're calling the political side of me. I'm very comfortable doing environment with all its risks, by the way. The environment is very risky. Of my passion, the one I think is safe, but then it is safe until you become effective, it's poetry. Yeah, writing looks safe until again you become, you write a poem that becomes a problem. So all of these pursuits of ours are all okay until it rubs the
Until
power.
you cross some lines.
Yes, there are some red lines. Yeah, until you cross them. So the political activism at university, I was politically conscious. It's then that I read The Long Walk to Freedom.
Wow, Mandela's biography, that is.
Yes. That was a long time. I graduated in 2008. Yeah. So at university, someone who is now a state attorney borrowed me his book. He was also a reader like me, The Long Walk to Freedom. I had already read Africa Must Unite, Kwame Nkrumah, and so reading those books, Martin Luther's, and in Martin Luther, that's why I got the idea that he emphasized the idea that whatever you do, whether you're a pastor, what you should add being a human rights activist. That in one of his passages, yes, I remember it distinctly, getting it from his book. As for Long to Work Freedom, and I encourage every activist, every leader to read it. It's like a Bible, especially in a dictatorship context like ours. They faced a mammoth monster in apartheid, monumental strength, military strength, international credibility. So you were dealing with what they call a system that is
so entrenched, so juggernaut.
Impervious, exactly. I like the word juggernaut, yes. It was just impervious to whatever pressure you are trying to exert on it.
To never move.
Yeah. So, but Mandela says that hates of repression produce hates of resistance. And you could see that in Robben Island, you could see how the human soul pushed to its limits will also, the resilience also rises. I remember them in what prison showed him that some people who look like they are strong in jail, they crack. And some people you would write off whom you didn't rate highly, they go into jail and you see them holding much stronger than they had expected. And jail is one of those ultimate tests of someone's spirit. Yeah. The isolation, the powerlessness of the detainee.
Yeah. You want anything and you must ask someone else.
Can I? Everything, wake up, this, like if you're free spirits like me, then you don't want all those rules, most of which you don't even know, you don't even want to know applying and regulating you. So it's terrible, but I read that literature. It was part of, for me, my foundation into what you're calling political activism. Because me, I'm just being myself. I don't really see myself as an activist, but people keep telling me I am an activist.
I guess that's the case
for
everyone.
And eventually I have to.
Activism.
So I am an activist, okay. But I didn't look for it. Maybe it came to me. Maybe I was dragged into it. Not by anyone, like by what I believe, what I think is right and wrong. Then you're just doing that. You're calling X, and people are saying you're an activist. Yeah, calling out dictatorship, resisting, refusing to be silent, simple things, insisting on justice has now become activism. Yeah. And yes, so in that extent, I'm an activist. And you can call it political, whatever you call it, but activists are activists, and authority doesn't like it. Status quo never likes activism, because activism pushes on the boundaries, on the horizons of, it expands the horizons of freedom. It wants to preserve human dignity. Yeah, it wants to cherish you as you are in your fullness, while dictatorship is suppressing you, is killing those instincts. Yeah. And now there is a conflict. Yeah, you are expanding freedom, dignity. This one is suppressing it, is taking it away. And that's why it doesn't take long before the activist becomes the prime target of the authoritarian leader. So the authoritarian leader soon classifies you as the problem, even when the authoritarianism is the real problem, even when the greed is the real problem, even when the selfishness is the real problem. But you who is fronting their polar opposites, freedom, equality, human rights, now becomes the problem, and you must be solved. How do you get solved? You could be removed from the context, such as exile. You could be isolated so that you don't spoil those people around you in their estimation. You could be beaten so that you get numbed, and some people actually get numbed into silence, or shocked and traumatized into doing no more. Of course, meeting contemporaries who are like you, who think like you, helps you to flow along. A lonely journey can be a very difficult journey. But a journey with comrades, you may not even realize that you have reached your destination.
It becomes so enjoyable.
It's not enjoyable. It is harder. If you're with a group and you're thirsty, you can figure out how to get water and where to get it and while continuing the journey. If you are alone and you have, sometimes you may even stop and see. Like, there are many benefits of comradeship and having allies, having sympathizers on this journey.
I think actually, thank you for talking about that. My next, I think, question is going to be around how you keep yourself grounded amidst that, because I think it can be really isolating, and it is not everyone that gets out, like you said. Some people don't really get out of those trenches, and like, how do you keep grounded? How do you really advise people in this space to keep grounded? How do you keep? You don't get distracted or carried out, away by all this that is happening around.
Again, what I said started with read. Read literature of the area you're interested in. If it's environment, read environmental literature so that you're knowledgeable. Because these guys are going to portray you as you're making noise, you're empty. What are the alternatives? That kind of thing. So read something about it so that from the knowledge point, at least you're starting your career. Then read experiences of people who have been through it. That's why I'm saying, like, Long Walk to Freedom is the Bible for activism. Yeah. Like, everything is there for our context, because this is South Africa. This is militarism they are facing in the form of apartheid and colonialism, of course, and for them, even apartheid is really racism of some kind of type. Yeah. So you're a juggernaut, a political juggernaut, economic juggernaut, and you are at the margins, and people have been there. So it helps you to know that it is tough, but I'm not the first one. There are people who have been there, and sometimes it even gives you a roadmap. How did Mandela do it? How did Chief Ruth respond to this? How did Oliver Tambo get in touch with them? How did they, when it came to communicate, how did they communicate with their enemies? All these things. So reading is a major pillar of any serious activist work. Then allies. Then you have to be a communicator, because activism, much of it is about communication. You can call it social media, you can call it the op-ed. I see he writes a lot of op-eds, you could call it podcast, but what you know, what you're calling out, you have to vent it out in some fella. So you can't keep pushing away media. You have to embrace it in some way and know how to, and try to give it your perspective. Yes. You have to do some writing. You have to do some speaking. You have to make time for it and be available. And again, allies, if you're not able to attend a show, can you recommend a colleague so that the people who share your perspective, it's not lost? Yes, I'm not available, but I think Toko can do it. Yes, then let him step in. And of course, what I learned the hard way also, this I really didn't know, is rest is also important. Sometimes it's okay to switch off the phone, and actually people look for you and they can't get you. Because when you're young, you get away with a lot of not resting. As the ages pile, the body tells you that you're very lucky if it responds gradually. For some people, it responds devastatingly, suddenly with strokes, with serious, But for some people, it comes in as fatigue, as malaria, which is not there, as burnout, and so on and so forth. Once you get that, then you're lucky, because that's not, you can handle that. You can, now it gets you can get counseling, you can what, but allies are very important. They can ask them, have this question. How can we solve this problem? Just speaking to someone who is like you about an idea sometimes solve the problem. When they start speaking, you say, hey, yes. Yet when you are with the problem alone, even the things that are obvious were not coming to you. Yeah, so they can remind you of what worked in a certain area. You might even be the one who did it, but you have forgotten. Or they may know who solved it, and they may even know, they might be just a call away from the solution. No, relax, I will handle that. Oh no, I have no idea, but there is this guy, in Kenya. Let me call, I will get back to you. Give me an hour. Something like that. You have to work with people.
Yeah. And I think many activists struggle with unplugging and taking care of themselves. Yeah, I think it's like one of the challenges that we find in the space a lot, that people don't feel like things will go on if they unplug. So they have created like this kind of a system where it runs around them alone. And I think that's very dangerous, because then you burn out. Even when you decide to step back, no one is there to actually, step in that space. So it's very important for us to acknowledge that we are human beings. We get tired, we get frustrated, we burn out. So let's create a community that cares about us and cares about the causes that we stand for.
True.
People that we share values, so that when we are not there, they are there. But also when we need them to hold us,
They can be there for us.
hold us. And the earlier we realize that we thrive better as a community of activists and defenders of defenders, the better for everything that we work around. Yeah.
True. So, Eron, for most of the people who didn't know you, they did on the 7th. Was it 7th of January?
Yeah.
7th of January.
Yes, yeah.
The scenes that played out at the court martial in Machindie. I remember we met the day before. And you said, before you go to Entebbe, I'll go to Machindie. So I was watching these ugly scenes play out. You basically trying to get access to your area as a lawyer. And there's this court orderly, if I call them that, who blocks you, and then there's that back and forth, and then the next thing you're in the dock where your client was, and the next thing you're being sentenced to, was it 9 months? 9 months in prison. And you spent some time in jail. What happened that day? Were you so shocked? I mean, the facts are known of what happened. But how did you feel about it when the judge, quote unquote again, chairman of the military court, announced that you're going to jail for 9 months? What was your immediate feeling?
No, that one was a shock. That one was a shock. The arrest was
Not so much?
not so much. Yeah, but
The sentencing.
sentence, 9 months, like, not only was it outrageous, it was also unprecedented. Like, yeah, how low can you go? How ignorant, stupid can you be? So, yeah, it was just, I didn't have a high regard and high opinion about the military tribunals, kangaroo. That's why in the first place they didn't want me there. That's why in the first place they tried to, they excluded me by force. Of course, abusing the legal system, but yes, the 9 months was a big shock. But so when they announced, I even laughed actually. Of course, I had been beaten thoroughly. I had been beaten thoroughly, and what I was in pain, but I couldn't resist laughing at the 9 months, and it was not the laughing of happy, but it was the laughing of like shock.
Seriously.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
I would be deceiving if I said I wasn't shocked. So, and the whole system now was in shock, and I reached the US suppose court. I didn't have the energy to court because I had been beaten. Yeah. So everything.
That's in jail.
Yes, in jail inside. Then you have to change clothes, remove. Now slippers. You are actually detained.
Was that your first time being detained?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I had spent all my life in this helping people and actually avoiding being arrested because I thought my strength was in helping people get out of detention. So I last did a street demonstration when I was at university. I think it was, so I did two, if you like, demonstrations. One was on term limits, and the other was when university was coming back, I think, from South Africa. We walked from Nakawa to Awaita Babiri, then back to Kororo on foot, and we were young. We were
Full of
tired,
adrenaline, energy,
the
excited.
of the moment. You just needed to have been there. Yeah, some of those moments.
So you had avoided this up to that point.
So once I graduate, I become the lawyer, and I'm not going to be arrested. I'll represent people. I mean, and then of course I will not be arrested. So, yeah, and arrested I wasn't for long, but up to a point until this year, until I insist on doing my work, and then the military had enough of it, and they said, no, you'll be in prison.
How do you spend your? So you are in jail for the first time. How did you spend your time? What was the average day like? I know you had a lot of visitors, but yeah.
Yeah, the visitors were part of the coping mechanism, and I really appreciated them. But they were visiting days at some point. So, like I made some friends. I had to make a few friends. Reading again was part of it. It's priceless reading, because there is forced sleeping, if I may put it that way. You are locked in at some point very early, then the light is on throughout the night, because there are no switches inside the cells. So either it's on or off. So lights on throughout the night. So you can't sleep for 10 hours. So yeah, you get bored, you wake up, and so what you read.
I mean, where in your cell?
My cell were 3, very small, but we are lucky to be 3 because the larger cells are really terrible.
So you wake up and discuss with them in the night.
Yeah, so coping was reading, was some writing. Yeah, some writing, eating. To be honest, because these guys bring me some things. So sometimes I would be bored and just take a juice, and they are not healthy, but intentionally I would take them. Now I can't take them. But these,
So speaking of your coping mechanism, you mentioned that people coming around helped you cope.
A lot.
So can you speak more to that, on the value of that kind of solidarity?
Prison means isolation, means cutting you off from your usual routine, your usual support system, your family, your friends, your choices. Because prison really is about having no choice. You are submitting to authority against your will. It's involuntary, you have no choice. So when you have inmates around, but it's routine, it's bored, and they are also fellow inmates. It's a group of oppressed people. So the real human connection you can get, and it's dehumanizing in a sense. It's one area you are like a cage. You are a caged animal. You are a caged animal. Now you have a feeling of how these birds that are caged must feel. These animals that are caged must feel. So when the outsiders come with their vitality, of course some come also when they are traumatized, but just that outside connection is everything. The days I went to court, even when I didn't get the result, were refreshing. Right? This is the time I was seeing the light, time I was seeing people. So that connection is a bit restored, albeit temporarily, when you're visited or when you go to court. Yeah, because it is the opposite of what the detention is all about. Detention is about denying you that connection. And when it is, the moment it is restored, you look forward to it and you cherish it while it lasts.
So we are getting towards the end. In fact, we should be ending soon. Now, for me, after all that, of course, there's the Kawazuruka ruling. I don't know if you know, but we protested and we got arrested. but then the Kawazuruka ruling, it comes and you're free. You regain your freedom. And then Parliament decides that, no, we need to take civilians to be tried again in the court martial with the most recent amendment to the PDF bill, which I think is going to be assented to by the president anytime because he has no problem with that whatsoever. So how much of a setback was that for you personally?
It's not personal. It's just a setback for the country. It shows you that we really don't have a parliament, that its subjugation is complete, and the people who are there, who have been compromised. There are those who are resisting inside, like there are resistors in every space. But the people who are allowing themselves to be blinded from what I'm going through, what many political detainees are going through, what Vestige is going through, you can't say you're not seeing. So it's willful blindness. It is submission to the bribe, the money that Museveni is giving you, the intimidation he's exerting on you, is that we see what you're doing, but you're betraying us, you're betraying the country, but you're killing it. People, killing is in many forms. Sometimes it is in how you vote in parliament. Sometimes it's in the decision you write as a judicial officer. You can murder people by your decision, by your hand, your pen, by how you vote, by what you do and what you do. You can murder a country. It's not everyone that is going to strangle it like that. Yes, I think Kawumba wrote a poem about how you. I'll look for it and ask him to share it. So people kill nations without holding hands.
The decisions they make.
The decisions they make, the indecision, the refusal to decide, all have consequences. And they can be dire consequences if you are in strategic spaces like judiciary, like parliament, like police, like military, like various governmental offices. Yeah.
So thank you, Eron. It's been a very nice conversation having you. And we've always wanted to have you. The first time we wanted to have you, were still behind bars, but now we are glad that at least we can have you.
And you look better.
And wait, so finally, the case is still going on, right? You're out on bail.
Yeah, but I'm still a convict.
You're still a convict.
Yeah.
But there's an appeal.
Yeah. Court. I'm waiting for court to demolish
No date
that.
yet.
And I don't have my passport.
So you can't travel.
So you can't fly.
Yeah,
But you
so-
can get tricks from Kakwe.
Yes, they. I don't want to do the Kakwenza thing because I'm not Kakwenza, and also the judgment said I could ask for my passport, but I've been asking for it since I came out and have not got it.
Wow, that's
There
sad.
is something wrong with the judiciary in Uganda today.
Okay, so thank you for listening in or watching this episode of Unyielding Voices, where we build power to resist oppression. I was with Eron Kiiza, and my co-host is Meram over there. We hope to see you in the next episode. And like I said at the start, if there are things you think you can do to improve this show, or people you want us to host, or topics that you want us to look into, or if you're an activist who thinks that you want to be heard, you can always reach out to us in the comments or reach out to Unyielding Voices, which is at Solidarity Uganda, and we shall get back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a great time.